So another canopy management operation that's super important is leaf removal. And this is something we will generally do. You won't really do this in really hot climates because you'll get sunburn, which can halt the ripening of fruit, the development of fruit. It can also just cause kind of like rough phenolics and really light color, that sort of thing. So, and also, if it's really bad, it can be, you can get sunburn. When you damage those skins, you can have disease and stuff later. But in cool climates like in Oregon, New Zealand, here in the Finger Lakes, we do this operation every single year. So this operation, we will do it on the morning side of the fruit zone. So if you have a north-south row, the sun rises from east to west. And you're going to do it on, sorry about this. You're going to do it on the eastern side of the canopy. The reason being on the west side, right, when the sun goes up and over, and generally around like between 1 and 2 p.m., that's the hottest part of the day. The sun will be on the western side of the canopy, and you're trying to kind of minimize the amount of heat that you're getting on that west side because that's where you have the risk of sunburn, right? So again, and then on east-west rows in the northern hemisphere, we would leaf the northern side of the canopy because the south side is going to get more sun, okay? So the goal here is, again, just increasing fruit zone exposure. And again, it's the same reason we're doing anything with de-densifying canopies with canopy management. So again, increasing flavors and phenolics, so those secondary metabolites. We can get faster sugar accumulation because the fruit will heat up a bit, and you get more enzymatic activity in that fruit. Acidity can go down as well. And again, because the fruit heats up, so the TCA cycle is going quicker, and you're burning off more, you're respiring more malic acid. And also, of course, we're doing this because of, again, disease management. This is really the number one reason we do any canopy management, is to get more UV light, kill off fungus, kill off pests, get better spray penetration, dry out that fruit zone, right? All that stuff. And I should say, we use all these things. We don't, if we're growing Chardonnay and Pinot Noir in Oregon for sparkling wine, we want acidity, and we don't want a ton of sugar. So we may not actually do this operation for some wine styles, right? So this is a major way in which we can modify wine quality and wine style in the vineyard. So we can use machines, and most of us use machines now at this point, even at the high end of the industry, because there really is no qualitative reason not to use machines or to use people. The machines do the job just as well as folks do, and much faster. So we have these kinds of machines. This is called a pulsed air or pelletized air machine made by Collard, and it just fires like quick bursts of air, like pelletized, and then it rips through the canopy. This is a machine called, that many of us like from New Zealand call second cut. So a second cut machine, and it pulls a vacuum and it has rollers and then cuts the leaves off. So this would be, here's an image from Richard Smart, and you see complete occlusion of that fruit, right? You can really not see anything in there. And then this would be what it looks like after leaf removal. You really open up those clusters on that morning side of the canopy. So one cool thing that leaf removal can do is it can get rid of some negative aromas. So in Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, those Bordeaux reds, there can be this compound called Methoxypyrazines, or a class of compound called Methoxypyrazines. Methoxypyrazines smell like green peppers. No one likes vegetables. Nobody, objectively, right? They're gross. I'm not trying to drink vegetables. So we're trying to get that out of wine generally. Sometimes it can be nice at the low concentrations in Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc. It can give you kind of a rustic feel to a wine. But for the most part, we're trying to, especially here in the New World, we're trying to make wines that are fruitier because that appeals to our largest market. And so we're trying to get rid of these things. And so in the first part of berry growth, light, the more light that you put on the cluster will decrease the biosynthesis of methoxypyrazines. So it's critical if you're growing Cabernet Sauvignon, especially in cool climates like here, it's critical to, once the fruit sets, go take the leaves off as soon as you can to maximize light exposure to really minimize the biosynthesis of methoxypyrazines. Then, after veraison, heat degrades methoxypyrazines. So they build up and they reach a maxima at veraison, and then they degrade by heat afterwards. And so, again, having an open fruit zone with good leaf removal will degrade more methoxypyrazines than if you didn't do it. Okay, so this is something actually it's relatively new that we know this as a people, as grape growers. So actually, if you go back and you taste some, if you were to taste some of the Napa Cabernet back from like the 70s and even in the 80s, there were some pretty green cabs back then, and that doesn't really exist so much anymore because now we have a better understanding of how to manage methoxypyrazines. So here's kind of all of training and canopy management that we do. So we've covered shoot thinning. Suckering is oftentimes done separately from shoot thinning. Sometimes people do it at the same time. Shoot positioning is when, so if you have vertical shoots, like you all have seen vineyards in this area and they're all going vertical, right? People actually have to go out there and separate those shoots apart, and that's called shoot positioning. Wire lifting, again, those vertical shoots, they're going up through wires. And so we actually have to go and take wires and capture the shoots and put them all up together in those wires. Leaf removal, of course, we just talked about. Lateral removal. So there's the thing, I believe we looked at lateral shoots in this class, but a lateral shoot is a shoot that arises from the leaf axil. And so if we get a lot of laterals, these can cause a ton of congestion in the fruit zone. So these, a lot of times we actually have to pull out by hand. We can kind of do it with a machine, but sometimes the machines aren't great. Hedging as well. So grapevines have what's called indeterminate growth. So they're going to grow and grow and grow until something stops it. So it might be the season, simply. It might be water. It might be nutrients or pests. But generally, it's going to be the season or water. But if you live here in the Finger Lakes, water generally is not limiting at all. So it's really the season that kind of stops the growth. And if you just let it grow and grow and grow, the vines would just grow into the center of the rows and it would be a jungly mess. So you actually have to go out with a tractor and hedge. And then oftentimes we don't consider pruning to be like canopy management, but it really is because it sets up the canopy for the next year. So yeah.